Good evening, Baltimore. It is excellent to see everyone tonight on this solemn occasion, but also call to action in remembrance of Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg. We're going to begin with a prayer and remembrance from Rabbi Dressen.
You and I will change the world. You and I, and then all will follow. Others have said it before me, but it doesn't matter. You and I will change the world. You and I, we will try from the beginning. It will be tough for us, for certain. It's not too bad. Others have said it before, but it doesn't matter. You and I will change the world. Good evening. My name is Rabbi Jessie Dressen, and I work as the Executive Director of Repair the World Baltimore, an organization that mobilizes Jews and their communities to take action to pursue a more just world, igniting a lifetime commitment to service. There are many ways to serve one another, to serve our communities, and to serve our country. In her lifetime, Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg modeled what it meant to be of service to the pursuit of justice and to be of service to others, especially those most likely to be looked over or excluded from protection she believed should be afforded to everyone. See, Justice Ginsburg believed every human has been created in the image of the divine. Justice Ginsburg once said, "I am a judge born, raised, and proud of being a Jew." The demand for justice runs through the entirety of the Jewish people. She often referenced her connections to Judaism as obligating her to do everything within her sphere of influence to make the world a more just place for all its inhabitants, to apply a strong ethical imperative to the interpretation of law, and to incrementally and in an ongoing and tireless manner work across lines of difference, at times advocating and other times dissenting, always with respectful discourse for the sake of the greater good. Justice Ginsburg departed this world on Erev Rosh Hashanah, the eve of the Jewish New Year. Jewish tradition teaches that when a person dies at this time, it is because the Holy One waited until the absolute last minute for their ascent to the next world, knowing that they were not written into the book of life for another year. In Jewish tradition, we often say, "May someone's memory be for a blessing." In some cases, we say, "May their memory be for a revolution." Many of us here tonight see Justice Ginsburg's death as a great light being extinguished in an already dark time in our country. We have prayed for her recovery during countless moments of illness. We mourn deeply and collectively that she has left this realm for the one on high. Tonight we grieve in our hearts and lament this great loss. And we especially think of her beloved family and friends who are grieving personal loss in the midst of the public and national loss we experience. We pray that Justice Ginsburg has an aliyah, a going up to the highest court in the highest heavens. Tomorrow, though, we pick up the work. For the best way to honor the memory of someone who has died is to carry their torch, their light, so that it does not become extinguished from this world. We can grieve the loss of this one, singular, otherworldly, phenomenal woman. And we can also take on her work so that her memory continues to bless us, compel us, and inspire us to act. Tonight, I offer this prayer written by my friend and colleague, Rabbi Karen Krieger Bogard. A woman of valor, she is difficult to find. She was more precious than her white lace collar. Humanity placed its trust in her and profited eternally. She brought people of all races and creeds and genders good, not harm, all the days of her life. She sought out those who needed her insight the most and dutifully, relentlessly did the work with her hands. She got up while it was still night, knowing that the work of justice never sleeps. She planted seeds that grew into a vineyard over the years with the fruit of her labors. She invested herself with strength and grace and made her mind sharp and powerful. She opened her hands to the poor and reached out her hands to those in need. She had no fear. She was robed in strength with dignity, and she smiled at the future. She opened her mouth with wisdom, and lessons of kindness were always on her tongue. Please take a moment for your own silent reflection. On the Jewish calendar, this is the season of invitation to hear the call of the shofar, a horn blasted in seasons and at times when the entire community must hear. The call to the season of Cheshbon HaNefesh, to take the inventory of our souls. The invitation to Teshuvah, to make amends for the individual and systemic harm we have caused others. And Trua, the call for and commitment towards justice. I have no doubt as Justice Ginsburg drew her last breaths, these prayers of the season were surely on her lips. These meditations of hope that we should continue this work in her heart. Tonight we blow the shofar and hear the call to pursue justice, to continue the legacy of Justice Ginsburg, to stand together, committed to carry the work forward, inspired by the potential of one person to serve her community and to help build a more kind and just world step by step. You and I will change the world. It will be hard, but it's no matter. We'll do it together. You and I will do it together. You and I, we will change the world. May the source of peace send peace to all who mourn, and bring comfort to those who grieve. May Justice Ginsburg's memory be for a revolution. And together we say, Amen.
Thank you, Rabbi Dressen. Next, it is my honor to bring forward our Senator, Maryland Senator Ben Cardin.
Thank you all for being here tonight. It's important that we come together and share our reflection on an incredible person, Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg. What an incredible person she was, and I'm so proud to be with you tonight. On the floor of the United States Senate, both Senator Van Hollen and I, representing the people of Maryland, expressed our views in regards to her life and legacy. What a life she lived. She was at the top of her class at Cornell undergraduate school, at Harvard Law School, Columbia Law School. And yet when she graduated from law school, she had a challenge to find a job because of her gender. But she decided to do something about it. She devoted her life to public service. As a private attorney, she argued 6 cases before the Supreme Court and won 5 of those cases on gender equity issues. As a judge and then justice, she stood up for the values that made this nation the great nation it is. Her father was an immigrant who came to this country because he knew what America meant, the values of our country. And as Justice Ginsburg said herself, she only could have done what she was able to accomplish in life because she was here in America. And then she devoted her entire life to defend those values. What incredible opinions she wrote, both in the majority and her just fiery dissents on behalf of women's rights, on employment issues, on civil liberties, on voting issues. She was a tower of strength for all of us. The Supreme Court in its next term will decide cases as to whether you will be able to maintain your health coverage. Tens of millions of Americans' quality coverage is dependent upon what the Supreme Court does. This is not hypothetical. 130 million Americans have pre-existing conditions currently protected. They could lose that. The LGBTQ community is very much in jeopardy. It was a 5-4 decision on their right to marriage. There's so many cases that fall into that category. Climate issues, environmental issues. This is a consequential lifetime appointment. And that's why we are saying with a very clear voice to Senator McConnell, follow the right process in the United States Senate on a nomination for the Supreme Court, a lifetime appointment. And we're saying simply follow the McConnell rule. 4 years ago, it was February when Justice Scalia passed away in the election year. Plenty of time before the election, Senator McConnell said, not enough time, gotta let the voters make a decision. And by the way, so many senators that are currently in the Senate said the exact same thing, but went even further and said, even if there's a Republican president and we have control of the Senate, we will not take up a nominee for the Supreme Court in an election year because the voters have a right to be heard. There have already been votes cast for the presidency. Early voting and absentee voting has already started in several states. So we do say to Leader McConnell, this is too important of a decision to have a Senate power grab. And that's exactly what it is. The next president of the United States should make this appointment. And the American people should have an opportunity to explore who will be sitting in this seat so that we can get a justice that will follow in the tradition of Justice Ginsburg and defend our rights. Listen to her last words when she said she hoped that her replacement would be made by the next president. Let's carry out her wish. Let's carry out her legacy. Let's honor her memory, and let's carry on the task. It's an honor to represent you in the United States Senate. Thank you all for being here tonight.
Thank you, Senator Cardin. Thank you. My name is Denise Gilmore, and I am on the steering committee for Baltimore Women United, one of the groups that pulled into action shortly after the passing of Justice Ginsburg to bring us all here together. I want to thank you for coming out and for being here with us, reflect on the memory of Justice Ginsburg, but also to call for action. On Friday night, I was what seemed to be my 40th Zoom call for the day when the CNN ticker flashed across my laptop informing me that Justice Ginsburg had passed away. And I, like I'm sure many of you who are standing here today, immediately felt a sense of deep remorse. I felt a sense of deep sadness and a little bit of panic too, if I'm going to be honest, given everything that is at stake currently in our country and how important this Supreme Court decision is. You're going to hear from a number of organizations that are doing great work right now who are going to connect the memory of Justice Ginsburg to what we all know we must do, certainly in the next 2 months with the election coming up, and then moving forward to continue the call for justice. We do have little business cards that have a QR code on them. You can take a picture of that, look at the scan, and you'll see the websites for all the organizations you're going to hear from today. Our first speaker comes from the ACLU, an organization that we know is intimately connected with Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg, but also continues to do fantastic work here in the city. So please welcome Dr. Sheila Graham.
It's a pleasure to be here today, and particularly to speak on behalf of the ACLU of Maryland. My name is Dr. Sheila Graham. I am a board member of the ACLU of Maryland. Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg leaves a country changed because of her life's work. We will continue her legacy. Before serving on the highest court, Justice Ginsburg rose to prominence as an ACLU lawyer, fighting for equal rights. She founded the Women's Rights Project in 1972 and led the ACLU in critical legal battles for almost a decade after. Justice Ginsburg led the ACLU in a host of important legal battles that established the foundation for the current legal prohibitions against sex discrimination in this country and helped lay the groundwork for future women's rights advocates. At the time, most legal scholars believed the law should treat women differently. While some lawyers were taking on cases to protect individual women, Justice Ginsburg aimed to change the law on gender equality entirely. She argued her first Supreme Court case challenging gender-based discrimination in 1973 in front of a court that only had male justices. And she said, quote, "I knew that I was speaking to men who didn't think there was any such thing as gender-based discrimination, and my job was to tell them it really exists." She also later said that she felt like a kindergarten teacher. Justice Ginsburg succeeded winning that case in 5 of the 6 cases she argued before the Supreme Court. Few individuals have had such a dramatic and lasting effect on a particular area of law as Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg, who directed the work of the ACLU Women's Rights Project from its founding in 1972 until her appointment to the federal bench in 1980. By 1974, the Women's Rights Project and ACLU affiliates had participated in over 300 sex discrimination cases between 1969 and 1980. The ACLU participated in 66% of gender discrimination cases decided by the Supreme Court. In 1981, President Carter appointed Justice Ginsburg to the United States Court of Appeals for the District of Columbia Circuit. And in 1993, Ruth Bader Ginsburg became the second woman to be a justice on the Supreme Court. In her honor, we will be dedicating the ACLU Center for Liberty as the Ruth Bader Ginsburg Liberty Center. She leaves a country changed because of her life's work. Let's do the same.
Thank you very much, Dr. Graham, and thank you to the work of the ACLU. Next, I want to bring up Diana Phillips. Diana is the mayoral pro-choice Maryland Executive Director.
Let's talk about dissent. Dissent, which is a part of the fabric of America. For 400 years, we've engaged in dissent. We've put our fists in the air in revolution. We've marched in the streets. We've engaged in dissent in so many ways, writing songs, letters, speeches, and Ginsburg did the same. As an advocate, as a lawyer, she knew to just very carefully, clearly, concisely, meticulously build a scaffolding of case law to protect people, their civil liberties, gender equity. And then, as a justice, did the same with her opinions and her dissents. It was in Shelby County versus Holder that she criticized Justice Roberts and said that it was quite frankly, silly to take away any kind of protections regarding voting rights and to have southern states be able to change those parameters without any kind of federal oversight, like throwing away your umbrella in a rainstorm because you're not getting wet. She was really great about dissent, and she has this wonderful quote about it. "Nobody has ever explained the value of a dissent better than Ginsburg herself." She said, "Dissent speak to a future age is not simply to say, my colleagues are wrong and I would do it this way. But the greatest dissents do become court opinions, and gradually over time, their views become the dominant view. So that's the dissenter's hope, that they are writing not for today, but for tomorrow." We need to engage in dissent. We need to be very articulate. We need to be united in the way that we take back this nation. The Trump-Pence administration has done damage in the federal courts. So now we're going to have to do 2 things. One is we have to pay attention to our local elections. There's circuit court judges that have elections throughout the state of Maryland. Let's make sure our local courts have people that we want on those benches. In the states in which voters are voting in their state Supreme Courts, call your friends in those states and tell them to vote. Tell them to vote their values to make sure that the state courts are strong. If we can't rely on the feds, we're going to have to do this locally. And for those who want to know about what to do about the Supreme Court, I think we're going to have to pay attention to senators in other states that are saying that they are willing to make a commitment to not vote on a nominee before Inauguration Day. And you need to call people in those states to call those senators and say, stick to that commitment. We need to act up. We need to rise. We need to dissent in the good way. We need to further the public good. Thank you.
Next, it is my pleasure to bring up Karen Nelson from Planned Parenthood of Maryland.
Good evening, everyone. I am Karen Nelson, and I am here on behalf of Planned Parenthood advocates of Maryland, D.C., and Northern Virginia. The whole entire Planned Parenthood community is mourning the loss, along with all of you, of Ruth Bader Ginsburg. It's devastating, and I know that we all mourned all weekend long. It is a painful loss for all of us, for our country, and for the court. As we're mourning, we're also so fearful. So that is why we're here tonight together, have a little bit of more mourning, and then get out that card with the Q code and get to work. Ruth Bader Ginsburg committed her life to protecting the freedoms and health care of people across the country. She was such a trailblazer for all of us. Young girls, older women, all of us, we looked up to her, felt comfort in her words and inspiration, and never more than what Diana said when she was talking about dissent. She was fierce and fought and helped push our laws and our nation towards equality, freedom, and opportunity for every single one of us. She rose to protect our rights and liberties, a fierce fighter for gender equality, LGBTQ people, immigrants, abortion rights, and health care for all. Now, that fight is ours to finish. In her honor, Planned Parenthood Advocates is certainly going to do this every single day. The ideals that Justice Ginsburg made her life's work, we are now here to defend. And the fight of our rights, our freedom, and our healthcare, our bodies, our lives. Our country is going to depend on it, and depend on what happens in the next coming months. Now is the time that we need to rise. We need to rise to carry on her fight and honor her memory. I'm asking you tonight to become a Planned Parenthood Action Fund Associate Member. On your Q card, you can get the instructions on how to do that. And by the way, I love this Q card. I'm gonna keep it, my little business card with my Q code. I am gonna keep that with me for the next, I don't know how long, until we feel that we can be strong and we are getting what we deserve and what this country deserves. The card will tell you how to sign up for phone banking, for texting, for getting people registered to vote, and showing up over and over for events. Making those calls is so important. It's time to honor her legacy and get to work. Rise for gender equality. Let's rise for reproductive rights. Let's rise for the LGBTQ friends in our community. Let's rise for immigrant justice. Let's rise for workers' rights, rise for racial equity, and let's all rise for justice. Thank you.
Next, I want to bring up Huzaifa Mohammed from CARE. Thank you.
My name is Huzaifa Mohammed, and I lead CARE's governmental affairs work in Maryland. It's nice to address all of you this evening. I'm glad to have this opportunity. The Council on American Islamic Relations is America's largest Muslim civil rights advocacy organization. Last Friday, I was sitting with my family when I heard my phone buzz in my pocket. I picked it up and I read the tragic news that Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg had died. Like many of you, I'm still processing the news that this fearless force of justice and equality in our country is no longer with us. She was a fighter to the very end. Especially as a champion for gender equality, Justice Ginsburg was a role model and an example to both women and men across the country. She was an iconic leader whose legacy will be remembered for generations to come. Ruth Bader Ginsburg challenged gender norms in the United States. She was the first female tenured professor at Columbia Law School and the second woman to serve on the Supreme Court. She lived a life in pursuit of justice. She dedicated her work to fighting for civil rights and defending our democracy. The election in November is one of the most critical elections of our lifetime. The best way you can now honor Justice Ginsburg's legacy is to vote, and encourage others also to vote. I strongly urge you all to make sure you're registered to vote, make a plan to get out there, cast your ballot, and make sure your voices are heard. Voting is one of the simplest and effective ways to make meaningful change in a democracy. Let's defend our democracy by exercising our constitutional right at the ballot box. Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. To God we belong, and to Him is our return. As it is said in the Jewish faith tradition on such occasions, may her memory be for a blessing. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Huzafa. Next, I want to bring up Gabby Roque, and a youth leader dreamer at Casa at Action.
Hi, everybody. Good to see you. Kind of see you. It's a little dark. My name is Gabby Roque. I am the lead organizer with Casa. Thank you all for being here. We're all mourning this loss. There have been so many civil rights leaders who have passed away this year, and so we're losing a lot of giants. But I feel also very hopeful about the next generation and the generations that we're seeing now that are becoming activists. And so I'm going to let you hear a few words from one of these youth activists, Monica Camacho Perez.
Good evening. My name is Monica Camacho Perez, and I am a DACA recipient and a youth activist with CASA. First, I just want to thank the great Justice RBG for being a badass. For moving the needle forward on women's issues and for pushing this country to live up to its values of freedom and equality for all. I also want to thank RBG because I don't think I would be here today if it wasn't for her voting to defend DACA in June. Like I said, I am a DACA recipient. I want to thank her for hanging on and fighting to her last day. Today we mourn, but tomorrow we fight. We will honor her legacy by voting, by organizing, and by holding our elected officials accountable on all the issues RBG committed her life to. I cannot vote because I'm not a U.S. citizen, but I just want to let you guys know I cannot do 4 more years of him. My mental health is not good, and it's not going to be good if he wins again. So please, please vote. Tell your friends, your families to vote. Si se puede.
Sí se puede, sí se puede, sí se puede, sí se puede, sí se puede. Next, I want to welcome our City Council President, Baltimore Council President, Brandon Scott.
Good evening, everyone. I don't have to tell this crowd that Justice Ginsburg was a trailblazer. I don't have to tell you that she is a beacon of light and hope for women across this country, young women, young girls who now know that they can be something that they never thought they could be before. I don't have to tell you that Title IX, DACA, all the other great things that she helped defend would be gone if it were not for her. I also don't have to tell you that our democracy is under attack. And it's under attack from the highest office in the land. And what we are asking, you heard Senator Cardin tonight, I know Senator Van Hollen has just joined us. We're not just asking Senator McConnell to do what he did in 2016. We asked him to do what they're doing now. Pass off leadership to the next administration. Do what you're doing with COVID-19. Do what you're doing with infrastructure. Do what you're doing with making sure that workers have the pay that they need and making sure that people are safe across the country. Pass it off to the next administration because we know you don't want to lead in that way. It's very important that we understand the moment that we're in. Because if we want to live in a country where Black Lives Matter, right? If we want to live in a country where we believe that LGBTQ community has the same rights, that our Latinx community has the same rights as us, that it does not matter if you go to the church, the mosque, the synagogue, or nothing. It does not matter who you love, but because you live here, you have the same rights as everyone else, then not only do we have to come out and vote in droves come November, but after that, We have to hold everyone accountable, starting with me. Please hold me accountable, because this is a time where this country could break one way or the other. That's how important this election is. And when I'm thinking about this election, I think about my grandparents who grew up in the South, and where my grandfather held land, well, technically I hold it now, me and my cousins, but who held land that they tried to take away from him, and how quickly that could come back. That in my lifetime, I could talk to my grandfather. I talk to my dad every day and hear him tell me about how they integrated schools in rural North Carolina, where one of his classmates had a gun given to him by his father to come to this classroom in what we will know as middle school to shoot one of those niggas, excuse my language. That's the kind of world that they want to bring back, but that's not the kind of world that we want to live in. And that's why it's up to us to push through this election, push every day, push in our communities, push in our families, push in our place of work and worship, to make sure that everyone knows that united is the only way to be, and that we will not stand by and let the democracy be crumbled by a group of people who do not believe we all are equal. We know that is true. So since he is no longer with us, and God rest his soul, I have now taken up the mantra of saying what Congressman Elijah Cummings would say at this point. Tell Lottie, Dottie, and everybody to come vote so that we can send Donald Trump back home and we can bring democracy back to the United States of America. Thank you so much for having me this evening.
Next, it is my honor to bring up Maryland's other senator, Senator Chris Van Hollen.
Thank you. And let me start with the vote, and I'm going to end with the vote. Brandon Scott, we're really looking forward to working with you after your inauguration as mayor of the city of Baltimore. Thank you for your words. Thank you for your leadership. When it comes to the great Justice Ginsburg, what I know of her, and I had the chance to meet her on a few occasions, was she would like us to go light on the vigil portion and heavy on the call to action portion this evening. But before the call to action, I do want to unite with you in reflecting on her amazing life and her legacy. Because, as I said on the floor of the United States Senate today, she may have been physically short, but she had a towering presence and impact on the jurisprudence of the United States of America. And while she did not have the loudest voice in the room, her voice had a greater impact and has been heard in far corners of this country, and in fact the world, than others in the room. And if you look at her life and legacy, you recognize that even before she joined the Supreme Court, she had already made a huge difference in the United States of America, because she famously said laws on our books that pretended to put women on pedestals in fact put women in cages. And then she set out to strike down those discriminatory laws. She brought case after case, and she changed the legal landscape in our country. So we're talking about somebody who, even before she got to the court, had helped change America. And since she joined the court, she was part of the majority in some very important cases, including marriage equality, making sure that we do uphold the idea of equal justice under the law. But when she was in dissent, she also laid down an important marker for the future. She said her dissents were about having a conversation with the future. And if you look at the dissents, she's already been proved right. She had a very strong dissent in the outrageous, reprehensible voting rights case in 2013, where by a 5-4 decision, the Supreme Court took a big bite out of the Voting Rights Act. And she predicted that when they did that, those states that had been subject to pre-clearance by the Justice Department because they had a history of discrimination, that they would immediately put up barriers to voting and try and suppress the vote. And we saw from Mitch McConnell, he didn't even have the decency to wait even 24 hours before launching his power grab. It was just about 1 hour after her death was announced that he said that we're going to have a vote on Trump's nominee. And I want everyone to think about this, because here we are in the middle of the COVID-19 pandemic. We've been trying for 4 months in the United States Senate to have a vote on the HEROES Act to try to provide emergency relief to families and people who are hurting all over this country. Senator McConnell has not allowed a vote on the HEROES Act, but within just over 1 hour of Ruth Bader Ginsburg passing away, he said, we're going to have a vote on Trump's nominee. So it's important that the country recognize that at a time we should be fighting this pandemic, they are fighting to stack the court with right-wing ideologues who are going to try to reverse the legacy of RBG. And so this is a moment for all of us to rally together. And I just want us to focus on 2 things. There's been a lot said about the rank hypocrisy and dishonesty of Mitch McConnell, and that is absolutely true. I mean, after all, when President Obama had a vacancy after Justice Scalia passed away in March 2016, of course, Mitch McConnell said, well, you got to let the people decide. The American people have to decide in this election year. All the Republican senators said, you know what, there are presidential primaries going on right now. My God, we have to wait. Well, right now, as you know, general election voting has started in many states. And yet all of a sudden, Mitch McConnell obviously has changed the rules of the game. And the American people understand abuse of power. And they will see this for what it is. But in addition to this being dishonest and rank hypocrisy, the larger question obviously is the future of our country and preserving her legacy on the Supreme Court. And make no mistake, Donald Trump has told us on multiple occasions that he plans to nominate somebody who will strike down Roe v. Wade. He infamously said, that he wanted to punish women for exercising their right to choose and reproduction rights. He has also said he wants to strike down protection for workers, and he's also said he wants a justice on the court who will destroy the Affordable Care Act, destroy Obamacare. And so at this moment, it's really important that we get the word out. Now, I know a lot of people are discouraged. We had more Republican senators today say that they weren't going to take the position, that they weren't going to even hear the nominee. That's what Mitch McConnell said in March 2016. They didn't even meet with Merrick Garland. They didn't even have a hearing for Merrick Garland. But here's the message that I think the late, great RBG would want us to learn. Perseverance, and I want to point out that the Affordable Care Act was something they tried to undo through the democratic process just in the summer of 2017. And I dare say that everybody gathered here was part of the American people rising up and saying, we're not going to let you tear down the Affordable Care Act. And I just remind people that Paul Ryan was Speaker of the House then. They passed the law in the House to throw out the Affordable Care Act. And President Trump was itching to sign that thing. And it got to the United States Senate. And most people said, oh, the Senate, they're gonna pass this thing. They're all majority Republicans. Well, what happened was the American people rose up, and people with cancer and diabetes and heart disease, they said, this is not a partisan issue. This is about health care. And COVID-19 doesn't just strike Republicans or Democrats or independents, it hits everybody. And yet, what they're talking about is trying to do through the courts now what they could not do in the Senate because they lost by that one vote. That's what they're trying to do, and that's why the Trump Justice Department with Attorney General Barr is taking the side in the courts of Republicans around the country who are trying to strike down the Affordable Care Act. And does anybody know when that case is scheduled for a hearing in the Supreme Court? 1 week after the election. The hearing on the case to throw out the Affordable Care Act, to throw out protections for tens of millions of Americans, including people with pre-existing conditions. And being a woman is a pre-existing condition. That is really what this is all about. They want to try to install another justice to participate in that hearing and strike down the Affordable Care Act. So we need to make sure that these Republican senators who have now said they're going to take the step of hearing from the nominee, that it become very clear that they will be held accountable. And here we are in the middle of a pandemic, and they're thinking about putting someone on the court who's going to strike down protections for people's health care. So we are going to do everything we can procedurally to stop the abuse of power, but we need the American people and everybody here to contact folks all over the country so we do what we did in the Senate in the summer of 2017. When we stopped them, it was one vote. We stopped them from repealing the Affordable Care Act, and now we have to stop them from stacking the court with somebody who will repeal the Affordable Care Act and undo the legacy of Ruth Bader Ginsburg. We owe that to her. Her dying wish was that we wait until the inauguration of the next President of the United States. From her perspective, that was the important thing, which is why my mask says, I will vote. Let's go vote.
Yes, yes, yes we can.
Yes, we can.
Thank you so much. And how lucky are we in Maryland to have two senators that are committed to upholding the legacy of Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg. I want to bring up Sister Angie Winder.
Fight for the things that you care about, but do it in a way that will lead others to join. This right here is beautiful. And now, here's the call to action. I'm getting right to the point of it. Today is National Voter Registration Day. Doesn't mean it ends here. I need everybody to call their family, their friends, their neighbors, and just make sure that they are registered to vote. Make sure that they have requested their mail-in ballots. Make sure that they understand that there are so many voter educations that out here because they want it to be a confusion so you won't vote, right? So we want to make sure that we do our part, and you can do it whether you're elected, whether you are, it doesn't matter. So you want to make sure they know the information. Justice Ginsburg, she gave women a sense of hope. She just made sure that she will continue to be that fighter to the very end, right? So now it's kind of like she's passing that baton to us, and we have to make sure that we continue her fight. She was actually my kind of woman. I'm a fighter. I say things and a lot of people get pissed off, let's just say that. But I'm okay with that, right? So she was definitely a huge advocate for gender equality, women's rights, winning many arguments. Come on, ladies, So we want to make sure that we continue with her legacy. There's so many opportunities to do phone banking. There's so many opportunities. We have a little over a month, right? So we want to make sure we do our part. Because you all out here after 9, you all are all community leaders. So thank you. So again, she was a strong voice and advocate for women, black and brown, people, and LGBTQ, basically just equality for all. So today I'm asking you to vote your value. That is great value. That is something that we should all be just proud of. The Maryland Democratic Party, I'm not speaking on their behalf, but I love the fact that what was stated on their website is that she leaves behind an extraordinary legacy of breaking barriers and fighting for human rights. Justice Ginsburg made us proud to be human, proud to be Democrats, and proud to be Americans. So again, my call to action is to make sure you call your neighbors, your family, your friends, make sure that we continue to organize and vote Trump out. So, for our RBG. Thank you, guys. Thank you, ladies.
Excellent. All right, and for our last speaker here today, we're also going to talk about how Justice Ginsburg's passing also is going to have a profound impact on working families here in our country. So I want to bring up Isabel Littman. Isabel is an attorney with the Office of the Public Defender and member of the Maryland Defenders Union.
Thanks, everyone. Good evening. My name is Isabel Littman. I'm a public defender in Baltimore City, and I'm a proud member of the newest local of AFSCME Council 3. We're called the Maryland Defenders Union. Employees of the Office of the Public Defender from across Maryland recently organized this union to give ourselves and our clients, who are indigent criminal defendants, a stronger voice and greater muscle in fighting a racist and classist criminal system. We know that the stronger we are as workers, the more forceful and effective advocates we will be for our clients. I'm here today on behalf of my union brothers and sisters in the Maryland Defenders Union to honor RBG. Justice Ginsburg understood the strength of collective worker action. In Epic Systems Corporation versus Lewis, a 2018 Supreme Court case, Justice Ginsburg, in her dissent, highlighted the importance of collective action in correcting the vast imbalance between workers and bosses. As she wrote, employees gain strength if they can deal with their employers in numbers. That case was about employers making it extra hard for groups of employees to file suit for wage and hour violations after they had been underpaid. She understood this case would also have an impact on the Me Too movement by forcing employees to take individual action through mandatory arbitration agreements and taking away the right to collective suit. She wrote, employees' rights to band together to meet their employer's superior strength would be worth precious little if employers can condition employment on workers signing away those rights. Now, public defenders are the pit bulls and the work horses of the fight for justice in the criminal system. And in Justice Ginsburg, we saw the law's ultimate pit bull and the law's ultimate workhorse as she fought all her life for equality, justice, and workers' rights. We know that the struggle for equal rights, workers' rights, civil rights, and civil liberties go hand in hand, and each succeeds when in solidarity with the other. We, the workers of the Maryland Defenders Union, vow to keep on fighting Justice Ginsburg's fight. Thank you.
All right, the people united will never be defeated. The people united will never be defeated. The people united will never be defeated. The people united will never be defeated.
The people united will never be defeated. The people united will never be defeated. The people united will never be defeated. The people united will never be defeated.
That's fantastic. Thank you, everyone. Look at this turnout in 2 short days. Baltimore is ready to vote. We're ready to stand for our values. We're ready to carry on the legacy of Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg. We've got more cards laying around.